بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. الكبيرة السابعة والأربعون الطعن في الأنساب. قد صح أن ذلك كفر. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم: اثنتان هما بالناس كفر، الطعن في النسب والنياحة على الميت. The author rahimahullah ta'ala says, major sin number 47. Major sin number 47. Al-ta'nu fil ansab. Taking stabs at people's background. At people's backgrounds, at people's ancestry, at people's genealogy, at people's lineage, at people's family history. To attack someone's blood, someone's background, someone's ethnicity, etc. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, قَدْ صَحَّ أَنَّ ذَلِكَ كُفْرٌ. He says it's been authentically reported, يعني in the sunnah, the hadith, that's kufr. That's an act of kufr, act of disbelief. He then says, and it's the 304th hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, اثنتان هما بالناس كفر. Two things that many people practice, which is kufr. الطعن في النسب is to attack someone's genealogy. وَالنِّيَاحَةُ عَلَى الْمَيِّتِ, and is to wail over the dead. To wail over the dead, as we explained yesterday morning. The concept of wailing over the dead. So the author, he says here, and before we move forward, there's a few things that we have to point out to your attention. Firstly is that this is a book that was authored by a scholar, Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah ta'ala, from the great muhaddithin of the medieval period, that time period, the 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, 6th century, that's that time period in which those great ulama of hadith lived. Al-Dhahabi, Al-Mizzi, Ibn Kathir, Ibn Abdul Hadi, Ibn Taymiyyah, of course, Ibn Qayyim, of course, Ibn Kathir, of course, Ibn Hajar, of course, Al-Iraqi, of course, and the list goes on of those great ulama who lived in that time period between, let's say, the late 6th, 7th, or the late 7th century, the late 6th century, all the way up until the 9th century, etc. That chunk of time in which those household names that you know about and you hear about, they all lived. And the countries in which they were from in general, whether it was Egypt, Sham, Palestine, etc. So therefore, Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, he was a scholar and he wrote a book. His book is not the Quran. His book is not the words, or is not all the words of the Prophet ﷺ. It's a book. In other words, the book is liable to be good, to be bad. The book is liable to be thorough or to be sloppy. It could be almost complete and almost perfect, and it could be totally far from being complete and being perfect, because it's the work of a man, a human being. And as Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala said, Aballahu an yatamma illa kitabu. Allah Azza wa Jal refuses for any book to be perfect but His. Allah refuses for any book to be perfect except for His book. So a book could be masterful, it could be a work of art, it could be a masterpiece, it could be an all-time, timeless classic. One way or another, it's going to be a need for adjustment, because it's the work of a human being, it's not the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, what's in this book of benefit, of khair, the Muslim should benefit from. What's in this book of error, of mistake, or something that needs to be tweaked and adjusted, the Muslim should either tweak it, adjust it, or avoid. Everybody understand? It's in Arabic and in English. In the English version of this book, my humble knowledge is that it's another version that's translated. And that's the version that is not authentically traced back to Dhahabi. That's not the version of the book that is authentically traced back to him. Rather, it is another version of the book that's full of fabricated hadiths, full of fabricated and bogus hadiths. That's the one, the old Dar al-Fikr translation. Maybe they revamped it, Allahu Alam. But the original one, chief sins, major sins, the old one, anybody who's been a Muslim for years, whether you're a revert, whether you're born Muslim, the old thick volume back in the day, that one that's translated is full of ahadith which are batila. And that's not necessarily authentically reported back to him. There's another version, which we have here in Arabic, which is totally clean from all of that. Everybody understand this? That's firstly. Secondly is the hadiths which are authentic, and how he organized and how he compiled his book. It's the work of a human being. Just because he says 47, major sin number 47, it doesn't mean that it's a list of major sins in that order or that category. And Allah and His Messenger are saying that this is the 47th major sin. In other words, the first 46 major sins, and that's the 47th. Whether it's worse or whether it's lesser, does not mean that. Rather, number sin or major sin number 47 is how He organized the book. Everybody clear on this? How He organized the book. And obviously, in the beginning of the book, He mentioned the destructive sins, shirk, murder, sorcery. Everybody understand this? Things like this, disrespecting one's parents. All right, He mentioned zina, riba, and which are mentioned in some hadiths, which would be from the Saba al-Mubiqat, the narration of Abi Hurairah in the Sahih, the 7 destroyers. But it does not mean that it's because the 47th sin, you can scorn it and look down upon it. And the first 46, no, it doesn't mean that. Secondly is, just because a sin is not mentioned in this book, does not mean that it isn't a major sin. Just because Al-Dhahabi missed out on it, or he just chose not to mention it, he summarized it, whatever the reason is, it does not mean that it is not a major sin according to Allah and according to His Messenger. Everybody understand this? Al-Dhahabi was a human being. There were other ulama who wrote books on Kaba'ir. They wrote books, smaller or bigger. They wrote books. They may have more, they may have less. Everybody understand this? They may have more, they may have less. So just because a sin is not mentioned in this book, it does not necessitate that it isn't from the Kaba'ir. And the Kaba'ir, as we read in the introduction last summer, we know what are the major sins by 2 ways. Number 1 is direct text. The text, the hadith itself says, إِنَّ مِنْ أَكْبَرِ الْكَبَائِرِ أَلَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِأَكْبَرِ الْكَبَائِرِ اجْتَنِبُوا السَّبْعَ الْمُوبِقَاتِ. The Prophet ﷺ says, should I not tell you about the greatest of sins? The Prophet ﷺ, he says the major sins. The Prophet ﷺ, he says the 7 destructive sins. It's clear text. The second way that we know about a major sin is the style of the hadith or the style of the Quranic verse. As we mentioned, anytime the word la'n, curse, is mentioned, anytime the word fire, nar, is mentioned, anytime the word ghadab, anger, is mentioned, maqt, sakht, wrath of Allah is mentioned, anytime it says ana bari'un, the Prophet says I'm free from whatever the person is. I'm free from one who wears a blue jacket. I'm free from someone who has a burgundy jacket. I'm free from someone who has a brown leather jacket. Anything that comes after that sentence, ana bari'un, I'm free, then that's a major sin. That's a major sin. Anytime there's a specific punishment, a crime, a penalty, a had, such as stealing, the hand is cut off, such as zina, such as adultery, fornication. Everybody understand this? Highway robbery. Everybody understand this? Different things in which there's a specific had, drinking alcohol, you are flogged, and the list goes on. So any act in which is punishable by crime in the legal system of Islam, we automatically know that it's what? A major sin. It's from the Kaba'ir. Even if the Prophet ﷺ does not say himself, this is from the Kaba'ir. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? So fire, curse, wrath, Allah has nothing to do with, the Messenger has nothing to do with. Laysa minna, He's not from us, He's not like us, He's not with us. Everybody understand this? Or a specific punishment. A specific punishment is mentioned in this and thereafter, in the grave or Yawm al-Qiyamah. This person will be in the grave. This person will be tortured in the grave. This person will have this in the grave. He will see this in his grave. When he's resurrected, he'll be shaking. He won't have flesh in his face. Those who ask money and beg for money without the necessary need of asking and begging for money. And the list goes on. So these are what we call, what the people of knowledge call dawabit. These are guidelines of determining what is and what isn't a what? A major sin. And it does not mean that the Prophet ﷺ has to say this is a major sin. An example of this, one could say, is al-isbal, dragging one's garment beneath the ankles, regardless whether it's out of pride and conceit or not. Everybody clear on this? The sheer fact that the word nar is mentioned, the Prophet says anything beneath the ankle of the izar, فَفِي النَّارِ. Everybody understand this? لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ غَشَّنَا. He who cheats us is not what? From us. Everybody understand this? مَنْ حَمَلَ عَلَيْنَا السِّلَاحَ فَلَيْسَ مِنَّا. He who bears weapons against us is what? Not from us. Everybody understand this? The Prophet ﷺ, he commanded for the one who drunk or drank to be flogged. We know that it's a what? A major sin. Khairan, inshallah. So just because it's not in this book, it does not mean that it is not a major sin. Everybody clear on this or not? And there are some issues in which the people of knowledge could differ on whether it is or isn't a major sin. whether it is or whether it isn't a what? A major sin. A simple example of this could be, one may say, shaving of the beard. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he explains the harms of a man shaving his beard. Harms. And he mentions, number one, he says it's imitating women. Number two, it's imitating young boys. Number three, it is disrespecting Allah's blessing and changing Allah's creation. It's imitating the kuffar and the mushrikeen. As Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned, he says it is mujahara. It is publicly displaying your act of disobedience. So one may say, just based off of these 6 points, shaving the beard could be what? A major sin. And another may say, no, it's not a major sin. Everybody understand this? So there's some issues in which the people of knowledge could what? Agree or disagree on is it a major sin or not. Khairan inshallah. Last but not least, is just because something is not a major sin doesn't mean that it's okay to keep doing. And doesn't mean that it's all right to just scorn and tell somebody, oh, it's okay, la bas. It's not a major sin. What's the big deal? Just make tawbah. Because we have texts of the Prophet ﷺ in which he warns us from something which are called muhaqqaratul dhunub. Sins which are looked down upon. Sins which you scorn. Everybody understand this? You scorn it. It's nothing. It's a fairy tale, a white lie. It's all right. It's not a black lie. Everybody understand this? It's a harmless what? Harmless lie. But in actuality, it's what? It's kadhib. It's a lie. It's something that isn't true. So the concept of culture, something that's okay, a harmless vice. But if you keep doing that harmless vice, it will eventually do what? Destroy you. Or you won't have the ability to do what? To stop it. And that's why Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he said, what? He said, La kabirata ma'al istighfar, wa la tawba. He says what? La kabirata ma'al istighfar, wa la saghirata ma'al israr. Aw kama qal. Whether qaddim or akhir. He says there's no major sin when a person makes istighfar. When a person says astaghfirullah, he makes tawbah. There's no more major sin. And there's no minor sin when a person continues to do it. Mal israr, you continue what? To do that major sin over and over and over and over again. He said that it's no longer a minor sin. Khairan inshallah. So therefore, number 47, he says, at-ta'nu fil ansab, is attacking someone's lineage. And this has several meanings. It could mean actually talking about someone's genealogy. It could mean talking about someone's family. We're of the same race or ethnicity, but your family was known for being cowards. Your tribe was known for being what? Weak, pathetic people. We're the strong warriors. Or someone that's outside of your ancestry. I'm black. You're from Pakistan. Pakistani people are inferior to black people. White people are better. Yellow people are better than red. Country, tribe, lineage, anyone's background. If you take a stab at it and you attack it, you're the son of a black woman. You're the son of a white woman. You're the person this, you're of that. You're from the north, you're from the south. You're keva. Then this is included what? In this concept of ta'an. Whether it is something that's direct or whether it is indirect. Everybody understand this? It could be a direct attack or it could be a harmless joke. Or someone say, oh, well, you know how all Guyanese people are. They all like this kind of stuff. It's a joke. But in actuality, it's a what? It's ta'an. Everybody understand this? You're actually stabbing and taking an attack at someone's background. Also included in this is stereotypes. Stereotypes. And pronouncing stereotypes and saying stereotypes. Well, it's known all Africans do this. It's known all black Americans what? Are like that. It's known that all Chinese people are keda. It's known that all Asian people are keda. Everybody understand this? That's making a ta'an. That's stabbing and that's attacking someone's lineage and someone's genealogy. So no matter what scenario it is, no matter how it looks, no matter how it's said, it is a means of what? Attacking someone's what? Genealogy, someone's lineage, and someone's background. Al-Dhahabi says, قَصَّحَ أَنَّ ذَلِكَ كُفْرٌ. It's been authentically reported that this is kufr. It's an act of disbelief, as we explained yesterday. And we don't have to repeat the interpretation, saying that it is or isn't major kufr. Al-Muhim is kufr. Stay away from it. Don't do it. What? Don't do it. It's kufr. Whether it's major kufr or minor kufr, don't do it. The Prophet ﷺ, he says two things that people do, as if this hadith is saying kathirun minan nas, many people, and as if this hadith is saying that many people, they scorn it and they look down upon it. They scorn it and they look down upon it. They don't consider it to be a major thing. And first is at-ta'an fi nasab. It's to attack someone's genealogy. We don't have to give any lectures or talks about how long this has plagued the Muslim Ummah. This has plagued the Muslim Ummah. And it's not just the general Muslims, the sinful Muslims. Rather, you find people who have knowledge and fiqh. They have this concept of prejudice, colorism, racism, and tribalism. Rather, when you read the books of fiqh, maybe even some of the books of tafsir, you'll find certain interpretations and certain fiqh rulings that are based off of racism. Based off of racism. This applies, this is haram, this is makruh. But there are certain people that don't have these characteristics. There's certain people whose hair doesn't grow like this. Certain people whose skin isn't fair. Certain people who don't have this type of skin or that type of complexion. Everybody understand this? So how can you base a ruling off of what? One person. Unless in the person's mind, it's either he's speaking to an audience which is mostly like this type of genealogy or ancestry, or these are the people that matter. And anyone else doesn't what? Doesn't matter. Such as a woman marrying herself without a wali. Some people, they may say it's permissible for her to get married without a wali if she's wadi'ah, if she's low-born. But someone who's sharifa, she has to have a wali. Kaif yani. The Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, La nikaha illa bi waliyin. There's no marriage except there's a what? Wali. And in this hadith, Al-Marwi an Nabi ﷺ, that's narrated, the Prophet ﷺ is not quoted to specify noble or ignoble. Obviously, if I say this noble woman, I'm talking about what type of nobility? Specific type. Everybody understand this? So it's very, very subtle trick of shaitan. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ says, people, they do it. And they may not necessarily realize it. They may not be paying attention. Or they may not even care. They may think that it's just what? A small thing. So be careful. And it happens on both sides. People who say that these people are racist, they themselves are racist often as well. You're prejudiced, they're often what? Prejudiced. So you have to be careful. Last but not least, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَالنِّيَاحَةُ عَلَى الْمَيِّتِ, and wailing over the dead. As we explained yesterday's lesson, Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. We ask Him to protect us from that major sin.